There are two completely different stories being told about the FBI and Nolan Wells right now, and only one of them is true. In the first story, the one racking up millions of views across social media, federal agents have swept in, taken over the investigation, and are closing in on someone. The thumbnails promise answers. The titles scream breaking news. The comment sections overflow with certainty about who did what and why. In the second story, the one the FBI actually put in writing, the Bureau is assisting a local sheriff with specific forensic tools on a case. That same sheriff is still firmly leading. No takeover, no imminent arrest, just routine cooperation between agencies working a death that occurred on federal land. Tonight is about the difference between those two stories, because that difference matters more than almost anything else in this case. It connects directly to the other name dominating every thumbnail this week, Katie, the young woman Nolan spent his last afternoon with, whose account supposedly just took a shocking turn that changes everything. Except here is what the viral channels skip. We are going to tell you what Katie's family has actually said, consistently, from the very beginning, and you can decide for yourself whether anything about it turned at all, or whether that narrative was manufactured for views. If you want the verified version of this case instead of the viral one, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Story's Crime Vault. It pushes careful reporting ahead of the noise, and it tells the algorithm that facts matter more than fiction. Now let's start with the piece almost everyone gets wrong: the FBI's actual role in this investigation. On July 16th, new details about the FBI's involvement reached the public, and the Bureau's Jackson field office put its role in writing. You need to read this slowly, because every single clause matters. The statement said that while the FBI has assisted with certain aspects of the investigation, aspects where federal tools and partnerships proved valuable to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff's Office is leading and will continue to lead the investigation. The statement went on to describe a long-standing, trusting partnership between the county and the Bureau, the kind that regularly works side by side on complex cases. Notice what that statement does and does not say. It does not say the FBI opened a federal case into Nolan's death. It does not say agents took over. It does not say a suspect has been identified. It does not say a crime has even been established. What it says is narrower and, frankly, ordinary. A local sheriff working an unusual case on federal land borrowed federal tools. That is it. And there is a plain, non-dramatic reason the FBI is anywhere near this case at all: geography. Horn Island is not ordinary Mississippi shoreline. It sits as part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore, federally protected land managed by the National Park Service. That geographical reality is why a park ranger, not a county deputy, found Nolan's body. When a death occurs on or around federal land, federal and local agencies routinely coordinate. This is not Hollywood. This is paperwork and jurisdiction. Sheriff John Ledbetter said as much directly. The FBI's involvement is not out of the ordinary, he explained, because Horn Island sits on federal land, and his office works with the FBI regularly. He also confirmed the specific help the Bureau is providing. They are assisting with the examination of digital evidence collected so far. Digital evidence, phones, data, the electronic trail, exactly the kind of forensic work a small county leans on federal labs to handle. Now understand what that phrase actually contains, because it is more consequential than a takeover would be. Digital evidence in a case like this means device extractions, pulling the full contents of phones, including material a user believed was deleted. It means location data, app activity, the timestamps that either confirm or contradict every human account of that day. The FBI's laboratory capability for data recovery runs far beyond what a county the size of Jackson could field alone. So when people hear the Bureau is examining digital evidence and picture a dramatic raid, they have the drama in the wrong place. The real power is quieter. The electronic record of that afternoon is being read by people who can recover what others cannot. If Nolan's phone, the one his family says came back with content missing, holds anything beneath the surface, this is the capability that finds it. That is not something happening to the family. It is something the family has wanted from the start. It also sits squarely inside the joint phone inspection both sides agreed to. Family experts alongside official investigators, working together. The takeover story frames federal involvement as a threat to the family's search for answers. The reality runs the opposite way. It helps to understand why the takeover narrative caught fire in the first place. Because the mechanics matter. 3 letters, FBI, carry enormous weight in the public imagination. To most people, federal involvement means one thing: someone important thinks a serious crime happened. So the moment the Bureau's name attached to this case, a shortcut fired in millions of heads. FBI equals crime equals suspect equals arrest coming. That shortcut is wrong here, but it is emotionally satisfying, and satisfying beats accurate every time in a comment section. A channel that titles its video "FBI takes over" will outclick a channel that titles its video "FBI assists with digital forensics" 10 times over, even though only the second one is true. That is not an accident of this case. It is the business model of the ecosystem that grew up around it. And there is a specific, verifiable reason to reject the takeover framing beyond the Bureau's wording. The sheriff never stepped back. Sheriff Ledbetter has continued to speak as the lead authority at every stage, issuing the statements, fielding the questions, setting the pace. Federal takeovers do not look like that. When the FBI genuinely assumes control of an investigation, the local agency recedes and federal officials step to the podium. That has not happened once here. The county is still driving. The Bureau is still, in its own word, assisting. So that is the first half of the federal story, and it is almost boringly reasonable. A small county working a complex case on federal land gets technical help from an agency with bigger labs and deeper expertise. Standard operating procedure. The second half is not boring at all, and it is the half the viral videos skip, because it does not fit the takeover narrative. Separate from the digital evidence help, the FBI confirmed to ABC News that it is working to address interstate threats received by individuals related to this matter. Read that again, because it is the true center of the federal story. The Bureau's most active role in the Nolan Wells case, by its own account, is not chasing how Nolan died. It is protecting living people from threats. Threats aimed at individuals connected to the case, serious enough, and crossing enough state lines to become a federal crime in their own right. Think about what that actually describes. Somewhere out there, real people connected to this case are receiving threats frightening enough that the federal government has stepped in. And the engine generating those threats is the same online storm that made this case a national story in the first place. The theories, the accusations, the viral certainty about who did what, aimed at named and identifiable people who have not been charged with anything. One of Nolan's own friends, Traston Shepard, put the human cost of it plainly in his interview. "It worries me for my friends," he said. "It worries me for my family." That is a young man describing what it feels like to be at the center of an internet, convinced it already knows the answer. It is worth understanding why threats like these become federal at all, because it demystifies the Bureau's presence entirely. A threat made in person within one town is usually a local matter. But the instant a threat crosses a state line, a message sent from one state to a person in another, which is what happens when strangers across the country target people in Mississippi through social media, it can become a federal crime under the laws governing interstate communications. The internet makes nearly every viral case threat interstate by default. So when the Bureau says it is addressing interstate threats received by individuals related to this matter, it is describing something concrete. People connected to Nolan, people who knew him, people who were there, are being harassed and threatened by an online mob that decided guilt before investigators did. That is not a side effect of this case. That is a federal crime happening in real time, generated by the very ecosystem claiming to seek justice for Nolan. Now let's go back to the beginning and talk about Nolan Wells himself, because in all the noise, the person at the center of this sometimes gets lost. Nolan was a young man from the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The details of his life before that final day remain largely private, protected by a family trying to grieve while the world speculates. What we know is that on his last afternoon, he spent time with Katie, a young woman whose name has become inseparable from his, in every viral video about this case. At some point after that afternoon, Nolan ended up on Horn Island, and it was there, on that federally protected barrier island in the Gulf of Mexico, that a National Park Service ranger found his body. The discovery triggered the standard protocols for a death on federal land. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office took the lead. The National Park Service, as the managing agency for the land, coordinated, and because of the location and the complexity, the FBI offered assistance. That is the framework. A death, a location, a multi-agency response. What it is not, at least not officially, is a confirmed homicide. No cause of death has been publicly released. No manner of death has been publicly declared. No suspect has been named. No arrest has been made. Those are not gaps in reporting. Those are gaps in the investigation itself, or at least in what investigators are willing to share. And that gap, that silence, is what the viral ecosystem rushed to fill. The family, understandably, wants answers. They want to know what happened to Nolan. They want to know how he ended up on that island. They want to know what the evidence says. And part of that evidence is Nolan's phone. According to the family, when the phone was returned to them, content was missing. What content, specifically, has not been detailed publicly, but the implication is clear. Something that was on that phone is no longer accessible, and the family wants to know what it was and where it went. That concern led to the joint phone inspection agreement. Family experts working alongside official investigators to examine the device. It is a cooperative arrangement, one that suggests the family and the authorities are, at least on this point, working together rather than at odds. And this is where the FBI's digital forensics capability becomes critical. Modern phones are complicated ecosystems. Data lives in layers. Things users think are deleted often are not truly gone. Location services run in the background. Apps log activity. Timestamps mark every action. A forensic extraction pulls all of that, the visible and the invisible. If something was on Nolan's phone and then was not, a proper forensic analysis can potentially determine what happened. Was it deleted manually? Was it overwritten? Was it corrupted? Was it never there in the way someone remembered? Those are technical questions that require technical answers, and that is what the FBI's lab provides. Not drama, not a takeover, expertise. But while investigators work that evidence quietly, the internet works loudly, and the loudest voices have focused on Katie. Katie is the young woman Nolan spent his last afternoon with. Beyond that fact, very little has been officially confirmed. Her full identity has been kept mostly out of the mainstream press, though her name circulates freely in the viral videos and comment sections. The narrative that has taken hold in certain corners of the internet is that Katie's account of that day has changed, that she said one thing initially and something different later, and that this supposed shift is the smoking gun everyone has been waiting for. Except when you actually look at what Katie's family has said, consistently and on the record, the shocking turn disappears. They have maintained from the beginning that her account has been consistent. They have said she cooperated. They have said she told the truth. The turn is not in her story. The turn is in how that story gets retold by people who were not there, do not know her, and have decided she must be guilty of something because she was the last person seen with Nolan. This is the dangerous edge of viral true crime coverage. A real person, a young woman, becomes a character in a narrative written by strangers. Her words get twisted. Her actions get interpreted through the worst possible lens. Her cooperation gets framed as guilt. And before long, she is not a witness. She is a suspect, tried and convicted in a comment section. And then the threats start. The messages, the harassment, the interstate communications that turn online cruelty into federal crimes. This is what Sheriff Ledbetter meant when he said the FBI's involvement is not out of the ordinary. It is ordinary for a case on federal land to get federal help. What is not ordinary, what is deeply troubling, is that the federal government now has to protect witnesses and friends and family from an online mob that thinks it is helping. So let's be very clear about what we know and what we do not know, because that line matters. We know Nolan Wells died. We know his body was found on Horn Island by a park ranger. We know he spent his last afternoon with Katie. We know his phone was collected as evidence, and that his family believes content is missing from it. We know the Jackson County Sheriff's Office is leading the investigation. We know the FBI is assisting with digital forensics because the death occurred on federal land. We know the FBI is also addressing interstate threats made against people connected to the case. We know no crime has been officially established. We know no suspect has been named. We know no arrest has been made. Those are the facts. Everything else, all the theories about what Katie did or did not do, all the speculation about what the phone shows, all the confident assertions about what investigators know, that is noise. And the noise has consequences. Traston Shepard, Nolan's friend, said it worries him for his friends and his family. That is the voice of someone watching people he cares about get torn apart online while investigators do their work. The viral videos do not include that part. They do not talk about the fear, the threats, the way real lives get shredded by people who think they are internet detectives but are actually just participants in a mob. They talk about FBI takeovers that are not happening. They talk about shocking turns that did not occur. They talk about evidence they have not seen and conclusions investigators have not reached, and they get millions of views doing it because the truth is slower and quieter and less satisfying than the fiction. But here is the thing about the truth. It is what will actually bring answers in this case, if answers are possible. The digital forensics work the FBI is doing right now, that is real investigative power. The quiet parsing of data, the recovery of deleted files, the timeline reconstruction from location pings and app logs. That is how modern cases get solved. Not by viral videos, not by comment section theories, by patient, methodical work done by people with the training and tools to do it right. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is doing that work. The FBI is supporting that work, and while they do, they are also trying to protect the people connected to this case from the consequences of going viral. Because going viral in a case like this does not mean justice. It means your face ends up in a thumbnail with a red arrow and a question mark. It means strangers across the country think they know what you did. It means threats in your inbox and fear for your family. It means the federal government has to step in not to solve a crime, but to stop one from being committed against you. That is the second federal story, the one that matters more right now than the first. The FBI is not taking over the investigation into how Nolan died. The FBI is investigating threats against how the living are being treated. Let that sink in. The most active federal role in this case is protecting witnesses and friends from an internet that decided they were guilty. And the engine driving that internet is the same one driving the views. The algorithm rewards certainty. It rewards drama. It rewards the promise of an answer, even if that answer is wrong. A video titled "We Need to Talk" gets ignored. A video titled "FBI confirms suspect" goes viral. Truth is bad for business in the attention economy, and this case has become a business. Channels have launched specifically to cover it. Creators have built audiences by promising insider information they do not have. The comment sections have become echo chambers where speculation hardens into fact, and anyone urging caution gets drowned out. This is not unique to the Nolan Wells case. It happens in every case that goes viral. But it is particularly stark here because the official story is so much less dramatic than the viral one. There is no takeover. There is no imminent arrest. There is no confirmed crime. There is a sheriff doing his job, an FBI lab doing technical work, and a lot of people online doing harm. The question is what happens next, and that depends entirely on what the evidence shows. The digital forensics work will either reveal something or it will not. The phone data will either corroborate the accounts given or it will not. The timeline will either make sense or it will raise new questions. But whatever the evidence shows, it will not show it to the internet first. It will show it to investigators, and they will decide, based on that evidence, whether a crime occurred and whether they can prove it. That process takes time, it takes expertise, it takes care. It does not happen on the viral video release schedule. And in the meantime, the people connected to this case have to live with the consequences of being characters in someone else's content. They have to live with the theories, the accusations, the threats, the fear. Traston Shepard worries for his friends and his family. Katie's family defends her consistency while the internet calls her a liar. Nolan's family grieves while strangers analyze their son's last day like it is a puzzle to be solved for views. These are not characters. These are people. And the difference between treating them like characters and treating them like people is the difference between responsible coverage and exploitation. So when you see the next video promising the shocking truth the FBI does not want you to know, ask yourself a simple question. Does this creator have access to evidence investigators do not? Or are they just repackaging speculation with a dramatic title? When you see the next thumbnail with Katie's face and a question mark, ask yourself whether calling someone suspicious without evidence is journalism or defamation. When you see the next comment thread convicting someone based on a feeling, ask yourself whether you would want to be tried that way if you were the one answering questions. The answers to those questions matter, because they determine whether the internet helps this case or hurts it. Right now, by the FBI's own account, it is hurting it. It is hurting it so badly that federal agents are spending time addressing threats instead of focusing solely on evidence. That is not justice for Nolan. That is interference. And it is worth asking what we, as consumers of this content, are contributing to. Every view on a speculative video tells the algorithm to make more. Every share of a baseless theory spreads it further. Every comment convicting someone without evidence adds to the noise that investigators have to work through. We can do better. We can demand better. We can choose verified over viral, patience over instant answers, and responsibility over entertainment. That does not mean we cannot follow this case. It does not mean we cannot care about Nolan or want justice for him. It means we follow and care in a way that helps rather than hurts. It means understanding that the FBI's involvement is about forensics and threats, not takeovers and arrests. It means understanding that Katie has not been charged with anything and her family says her account has been consistent. It means understanding that no crime has been officially established and no suspect has been named. It means accepting that we do not know what happened yet, and that not knowing is okay. Investigators are working. Evidence is being examined. The process is happening. And when that process produces answers, if it produces answers, they will be based on facts, on data, on evidence, not on thumbnails. That is the story the viral channels are not telling. That is the story that actually matters. A young man died. Investigators are working to understand how and why. The FBI is helping with technical analysis and protecting people from threats. The family wants answers. The system is moving. It is not as dramatic as a takeover. It is not as satisfying as a named suspect. But it is real, and real is what gets us to truth, if truth is what we actually want. The question is whether we are patient enough to wait for it, disciplined enough to reject the noise, and responsible enough to stop contributing to the harm. Because the harm is real, the threats are real, the fear Traston Shepard described is real, the pain Katie's family feels defending her is real, the grief Nolan's family carries is real. Those realities do not fit in a thumbnail. They do not generate clicks, but they are the actual human cost of this case, and they matter more than any viral video ever will. So as we move forward, as more information comes out, as the investigation continues, the choice is ours. We can chase the viral narrative, the one built on speculation and drama and certainty, without evidence. Or we can follow the verified narrative, the one built on official statements and documented facts and patience. One of those narratives serves Nolan, one serves the algorithm, and the difference between them is everything. The FBI is not taking over. The sheriff is leading. The forensics are happening. The threats are being addressed. Katie's account, according to her family, has not changed. No crime has been confirmed. No suspect has been named. Those are the facts as of right now. They might change as evidence comes in. They might not. But whatever happens, it will happen based on investigation, not speculation. And if you are here because you actually care about truth, about justice, about Nolan Wells, and not just the entertainment value of his death, then that distinction matters. This is Mr. Story's Crime Vault, and we are going to keep following this case the right way, with facts, with patience, with responsibility, and with respect for the real people whose lives this touches. If that matters to you, if you are tired of the noise and want the signal, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Hit that like button so the algorithm knows there is an audience for responsible coverage. And stick with us as this case develops, because part 2 is coming, and we are going to go even deeper into what actually happened, what the evidence actually shows, and what Katie's family has actually said from the beginning. Not the viral version, the verified one, the one that might actually help bring answers instead of just generating views. That is what we do here at Mr. Story's Crime Vault. Truth over trends, facts over fiction, and real justice over internet justice. Stay with us. This story is not over, but the way we tell it matters, and we are going to tell it right. The people connected to Nolan's story are being hunted, not by investigators, by strangers. Strangers who found them online, decided they knew what happened, and began sending messages threatening enough that the federal government had to step in. Some of these people sending threats live far enough away that only a federal agency has the reach to pursue them. And the fear on the receiving end is not abstract or exaggerated. One of the young men connected to this case has a mother who is a sitting local judge, a woman who has said publicly that she fears for her children's safety amid the storm of accusations swirling around this case. Think about what that means. A judge, someone who deals with actual criminals in an actual courtroom, is afraid for her children because of internet theories about a case where no one has been charged with anything. The people being threatened right now, the ones federal agents are working to protect, have not been accused of a crime by any official authority. They are, at this moment, legally innocent citizens receiving threats credible enough that the FBI is documenting them as potential federal crimes. That is not a minor detail in this story. That is the story, or at least half of it. Because here is the irony the takeover narrative completely misses. The FBI's biggest confirmed role in this case is, in a very real sense, a response to the case's own audience. Not evidence of a hidden crime, evidence of what unchecked speculation does to real people. When channels tell you the FBI moving in proves someone is guilty, they have it exactly backwards. The federal involvement everyone is citing as proof of a cover-up or a conspiracy is, by the Bureau's own words, largely about stopping the harassment those same theories produced. Let that reframe how you watch this entire case. Every thumbnail screaming the FBI is closing in is selling you a story the FBI itself contradicted in writing. The agents are not closing in on a suspect in Nolan's death. They are investigating crimes being committed right now, in real time, against people whose only connection to this case is that they knew him or were there that day. The call is coming from inside the house. The federal crime in this case is not what happened to Nolan. It is what the internet is doing to everyone around him. And the family's own attorney, Ben Crump, has been blunt about the broader problem flooding this case. He has warned publicly that misinformation is everywhere, including AI-generated images, fabricated evidence being manufactured and passed around as if it were real. In an environment like that, the discipline is simple, and it is everything. If a claim about this case did not come from a named official, a court record, or a credible news outlet, treat it as fiction until proven otherwise. Do not trust screenshots. Do not trust anonymous sources. Do not trust channels that promise insider information without showing you where it came from. The line between real evidence and manufactured content has collapsed in this case, and the only way to stay on solid ground is to demand receipts for everything. Which brings us to the other name that discipline applies to most urgently, Katie. One beat before we get to her, for the person at the center of all of this. Underneath the FBI headlines and the viral theories and the comment section convictions is a family that buried their son this week and still does not know how he died. So put his name in the comments, Nolan Wells. Let the record under this video hold a person, not a theory, a son, a teammate, a friend, not a case file, not content, a human being who mattered to people who are still here and still grieving. Now, what Katie's family actually said. Katie McCormack's name has been attached to some of the most sensational framing in this entire case. A shocking new witness statement, a surprising turn, the girl who finally broke her silence with something explosive. So let us set the sensational framing aside completely and look only at what her family has actually, verifiably said. To understand why her family spoke at all, you have to understand how her name entered this case. Because it did not enter through Katie. It entered through the worst hours of the search. When Nolan first failed to come home, the account relayed to his frantic mother included a girl he had reportedly wanted to stay behind with. A girl no one in the group could fully identify at first. And in the chaos of that first night, a second terrifying rumor attached itself, that this girl might be missing too. For a few hours, a mother searching for her son was told there might be 2 children lost on that island, the second one nameless. That rumor was false. The girl was Katie. She had never been missing. She had gone home safely on another boat and been reachable the whole time. But by then, her first name was already loose in a national story. And the internet did what it does. It filled the blank around her with invention. The account that finally corrected the record came from a member of Katie's family, Gracie McCormack, who spoke publicly for one specific reason. Not to drop a bombshell, not to shift the narrative, but to stop the speculation swallowing a young woman who had done nothing wrong. And here is the important part, the part that survives fact-checking. That account has not lurched from one version to another. It has stayed consistent. Katie was on Horn Island that day. She spent time with Nolan. The two parted ways that afternoon. She left the island safely on a different boat with her own family, and was reachable the entire time. That single fact put to rest an early and terrifying rumor that she too had gone missing. She had not. She was home. And on the single most important point, her family's account has been steady from the beginning. By their telling, Katie believed Nolan was heading back to rejoin his friends and get on their boat before it left. She said her goodbyes, assuming he had a ride home. She has no knowledge, her family says, of what happened to him after they parted, and she has been cooperating with law enforcement throughout. Now, where is the shocking turn in any of that? There is not one. What the sensational headlines are actually reacting to is not a change in Katie's story. It is the collision between Katie's consistent account and a different account, the one attributed to Nolan's friends, in which Nolan chose to stay behind rather than leave. That contradiction is real, and it matters enormously. But it is not Katie changing her story. It is two accounts that have sat in conflict from early on, repackaged this week as if one of them just dramatically shifted. It did not. Hold both accounts side by side, because the honest version of this case lives in the gap between them, not in either headline built on top of them. Katie's account, through her family. Nolan said he was coming back to the boat. The friend's account, as relayed through investigators and the family's legal team, Nolan said he was staying. Both cannot be complete. One of them is missing something, a misunderstanding, A changed mind in the minutes nobody witnessed, a memory reshaped by a traumatic day, or something else entirely. And no one with the authority to resolve it has said publicly which account the evidence supports. That is not a dodge. That is the actual state of the record. And anyone claiming to know more than that is guessing. What makes the gap so heavy is a fact you already know. The last confirmed sighting of Nolan was around 3 in the afternoon, and the track data shows the boat did not leave the island until 4:31. Somewhere in that window, whatever plan Nolan actually had either happened or fell apart. Katie's account and the friend's account are two descriptions of a decision made inside that unaccounted for stretch of time, which is exactly why investigators, and eventually a grand jury, will care so much about which one holds up, and why the internet's habit of declaring it already solved does so much damage. And notice who pays for that habit. Katie McCormack is a teenager whose first name became a national search term because she happened to talk to a boy on a beach. Her family did not go public to accuse anyone or to feed the frenzy. They went public because the frenzy had already found her, and they wanted the record straight before speculation hardened into something worse. The very kind of speculation that elsewhere in this case has produced the threats the FBI is now investigating. That is why this channel will not mine her social media, will not speculate about her motives or her character, will not treat her as a character in a mystery. Her account matters. Her privacy is not ours to spend. So step back and see how neatly the two halves of tonight fit together, because they are the same lesson. The FBI story got distorted into a takeover it never was. Katie's account got distorted into a turn it never took. Both distortions came from the same place. An audience so hungry for a break in this case that it manufactures one every few days out of whatever raw material is closest at hand. A federal statement becomes a raid. A grieving family's clarification becomes a bombshell. A consistent account becomes a shocking reversal. None of it is true, and all of it travels faster than the truth ever will. Here is what is actually, verifiably true tonight. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is leading this investigation and has been the entire time. The FBI is assisting with digital evidence because the death occurred on federal land, and separately working to address interstate threats against people connected to the case. The district attorney has committed to presenting the completed investigation to a grand jury. Katie's family has given a consistent account that has not turned. Nolan's friends have given a conflicting account. Neither has been publicly resolved. Nobody has been charged. Nobody has been named a suspect. And the one piece of evidence that could reshape all of it, the autopsy with its cause and manner of death, still does not exist in public form. The state medical examiner is still waiting on toxicology results, and the family's independent autopsy results have not been released either. That last fact is the quiet truth underneath every loud headline. As of tonight, no one, not the sheriff, not the FBI, not Katie's family, not Nolan's friends, not the loudest channel on the internet, actually knows how Nolan Wells died. Everything else is context waiting on that answer. When it arrives, this case changes. Until it does, anyone selling you certainty is selling you something that does not exist. Let me say that again, because it is the foundation of everything responsible about covering this case. We do not know how Nolan died. We do not know if a crime occurred. We do not know if someone caused his death or if he died by accident or by his own hand or by some combination of factors no one has imagined yet. We do not know. And until the people with access to his body, to the toxicology, to the forensic pathology, tell us what they found, everything else is just noise around a silence. That is hard to accept. It is unsatisfying. It does not give you someone to blame or a mystery solved or a villain unmasked. But it is the truth. The case is not solved. The investigation is not over. The evidence is not complete. The story does not have an ending yet. What it has is two conflicting accounts of a decision Nolan made or did not make in the last hour anyone saw him alive. It has a window of time, 90 minutes, between when he was last seen and when the boat he might have planned to be on left without him. It has a phone that his family says came back with content missing, now being examined by federal forensics experts who can recover data most people cannot. It has a location, Horn Island, federal land, remote and difficult, where a park ranger found his body. It has a cause of death that has not been publicly released and toxicology results that are still pending. It has a family demanding answers and an attorney, Ben Crump, with the resources and the profile to keep pressure on the investigation. It has a local sheriff working with federal support to build a case solid enough to present to a grand jury. And it has an online ecosystem that has already convicted multiple people in the court of public opinion, generating threats serious enough to become federal crimes. That is the actual shape of this case right now. Not a mystery solved, a mystery still unfolding, with real consequences for real people while the internet pretends it already knows the ending. And the people paying the highest price for that pretending are not abstract. They have names, they have families, they have lives that were proceeding normally until the day Nolan did not come home, and now they are living in fear. Fear of the strangers who send messages, fear of the videos that put their faces in thumbnails with question marks and red arrows, fear of the comment sections that have decided their guilt without evidence, without trial, without any of the protections the legal system is supposed to provide. That fear is why the FBI is involved, not because they took over, not because they are closing in on a killer, but because American citizens are being threatened across state lines by people who think they are doing justice but are actually committing crimes. Think about the layers of irony in that. People who claim to want justice for Nolan are terrorizing people who knew him. People who claim the system is covering something up are forcing federal agents to spend time protecting witnesses instead of focusing solely on evidence. People who claim to care about the truth are spreading fabricated images and false information faster than the truth can catch up. The very ecosystem that made this case national is now the biggest obstacle to solving it, not because it is uncovering secrets, because it is burying facts under an avalanche of speculation. And the line between help and harm, between advocacy and harassment, between seeking truth and spreading lies, has been obliterated. So here is the test. If you actually care about justice for Nolan Wells, if that is real and not just a phrase you type before sharing the latest theory, then you have to be willing to wait for answers that matter. You have to be willing to reject the channels that promise certainty they do not have. You have to be willing to protect the presumption of innocence for people who have not been charged. You have to be willing to let investigators do their work without deciding you know better from a comment section. That is hard. It requires discipline. It requires admitting you do not know. It requires accepting that the process is slow and frustrating and does not move at the speed of content. But it is the only way this ends responsibly. The only way that does not leave more victims in its wake. Because right now, there are already more victims. The people being threatened, the young woman whose name became a hashtag, the friends who are afraid for their families, the judge who fears for her children. They are not characters. They are collateral damage from a story that went viral. And the autopsy, when it comes, will not undo that damage. It will not give those people their privacy back. It will not erase the threats or the fear or the months of living under suspicion they did not earn. It will only, if we are lucky, tell us how Nolan died. And that answer, as important as it is, as necessary as it is, will not retroactively justify the harm done while we waited for it. So the question is not just what happened to Nolan. The question is what we are willing to do to people in the process of finding out. And the answer to that question is already visible. We are willing to do a lot, too much. We are willing to threaten, to accuse, to convict without evidence, to spread lies, to ignore facts, to prioritize our own need for answers over other people's need for safety. That is not justice. That is mob behavior dressed up in true crime language. And the FBI's presence in this case, the part everyone is misreading as proof of a conspiracy, is actually proof of exactly that. Proof that the mob got loud enough and dangerous enough that federal agents had to step in, not to cover anything up, to stop crimes from being committed in plain sight by people who think they are heroes. Let that sit with you. The federal investigation everyone is pointing to as evidence that something sinister happened to Nolan is largely an investigation into what the internet is doing to everyone who knew him. The call is coming from inside the house. Now, what happens next? The investigation continues. The digital forensics work continues. The toxicology results will come back. The autopsy findings will be released, or they will be presented to a grand jury first and released after. The district attorney will decide if there is enough evidence to charge someone, and a grand jury will decide if that evidence is strong enough to indict. That process has a timeline, but it is not one we control, and it is not one investigators are sharing. It could be weeks. It could be months. It will happen when the evidence is ready, not when the audience gets impatient. And when it does happen, when there is something real to report, the facts will matter more than ever. The difference between the viral version and the verified version will determine whether people understand what actually occurred, or just think they do. This channel will be here for that, with the facts, with the context, with the verified breakdown of what the evidence actually shows and what it actually means. No speculation, no manufactured turns, no clickbait certainty about things that have not been determined. Just the truth, as clearly and completely as it can be told from the public record. If that matters to you, if you are here because you actually want answers instead of just entertainment, then make sure you are subscribed to Mr. Story's Crime Vault and turn on notifications. Because the next real development, the one that actually changes this case, is the one we will cover responsibly. Not before it is confirmed, not based on rumors, not because a thumbnail promised something that does not exist. When the autopsy comes, when the grand jury acts, when there is something real, that is when this story continues. Until then, everything else is just waiting, and the most respectful thing we can do while we wait is to stop making it worse for the people who are living through it. This week, Nolan Xavier Wells was laid to rest in Ocean Springs, in front of the town that raised him. A teammate, a son, a friend his own friends describe as the one who brought everyone together. His mother asked for a celebration instead of only grief, because she knew him better than any headline ever will. He deserves an answer. So does everyone whose name got pulled into the storm around his. And an answer, real and verified, is the only thing worth waiting for. So let me end where I started. There are two completely different stories being told about this case. One is built on facts, one is built on speculation. One helps, one hurts. The choice of which one to believe, which one to share, which one to amplify, is yours. But the consequences of that choice are not. They land on real people. People who are already afraid. Already grieving, already living in the gap between what happened and what the world thinks happened. Treat them like people, not characters, not content, not puzzle pieces in a mystery you are solving from your phone. People. Katie McCormack is a person. The friends on that boat are people. The mother who is a judge and fears for her children is a person. The family burying Nolan is made of people. And Nolan Wells was a person. Not a case, not a headline, not a viral moment. A person who mattered, who is gone, and who deserves better than to have his death turned into a spectacle. Say his name, Nolan Wells. And be careful what you believe until the truth actually arrives. This is Mr. Story's Crime Vault. We will be here when the real answers come. Until then, we wait. Responsibly, carefully, with respect for everyone this touches. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember that the truth is worth more than the theory, every single time.